One of the most violent earthquakes in history struck Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, affecting a nuclear base in the region and drawing the attention of all global actors. On one side are China and North Korea, referred to as Russia's allies, while on the other side are the United States, Japan, South Korea, and Australia. All sides were curious about the extent of the damage caused by the earthquake at Russia's nuclear base. The damage at Russia's Pacific nuclear submarine base was serious. This was not just a natural disaster. It was also a devastating blow to the Russian Pacific Fleet. For Putin, a serious loss. But what comes next could be even more catastrophic. So, what scenarios does the destruction of the nuclear base in Kamchatka hold in store? Scenarios for Russia and the Pacific. The breakaway of the floating pier at Rybachiy clearly and concisely revealed that the nuclear submarine base in Kamchatka had been affected by the earthquake and tsunami. Satellite images showed that a section of the floating pier modules had detached from the connection point after the 8.8 magnitude earthquake on July 30th. There were no signs of widespread destruction at the main facilities, but there was a temporary reduction in mooring capacity. No detailed official damage report has been released by Russian authorities. Therefore, photographs and independent analyses constitute the first set of data from the site. Let's sum up the essence of the matter in one sentence. The rhythm within the port has been disrupted. Excellent. Now let's open the file on a world map and discuss who has gained a tactical advantage from this disruption. The first circle is the submarine countermeasure networks of the US and its allies. Even a small disruption in the rhythm improves the quality of data for these networks. Rhythm deviations in the P-8A Poseidons ASW and ISR mission profile can be directly translated into tactical plans. Routine torpedo training and multinational exercises like RIMPAC help improve methods after unexpected events. A multi-static acoustic approach, extending from the coast to the open sea, provides cleaner signals when the port-to-sea transition is delayed. These signals update target classification and probability maps of possible escape routes. Even if the percentage of forces on alert does not decrease, the predictability of forces on alert increases. Predictability reduces tracking costs and makes patrol windows more affordable. For the US, this is an option to increase deterrence without increasing force. The process is simple. Data is collected, the model is updated, and tracking lanes are redrawn. All of this is directly in line with the P-8A's mission profile. The US can easily implement all of this, while Russia is in the process of regrouping its forces at its Kamchatka base. The advantage that damage to the Russian nuclear base in Kamchatka brings to Japan comes from the joint operating culture of the P-1 and Aegis destroyers. The JMSDF's P-1 platform is designed for long-range patrols and multi-sensor and target tracking. The Japanese defense structure document prioritizes air-sea interoperability and system continuity. This allows Japan to incorporate early warning logic into its operational design to account for fluctuations in rhythm. Hourly deviations in the Okhotsk gates become more apparent in the network-centric tables of the P-1 sensor suite. While maintaining the air picture, Aegis destroyers synchronize their submarine tracking plans with the P-1 network. The narrowing at Rybachiy represents an opportunity in such a network. The opportunity may be to test lower altitude search blocks and clean up acoustic fingerprints. From the perspective of Japanese decision-makers, this is a subtle yet effective advantage. The advantage is reflected in daily flight plans without the need for a single press release. For South Korea, the damage to the Russian nuclear base is not a negative factor, but may mean a respite in the region. Seoul's newly deployed P-8A fleet could increase its observation depth in the East Sea and Sea of Japan axis. Capabilities that matured with deliveries in June 2024 will be operational by mid-2025. The presence of this fleet makes it easier to discern timing cues for Russian Pacific Fleet movements. Even when the rhythm is steady, new platforms experience a learning curve, and when the rhythm is disrupted, the learning curve accelerates. The narrowing of the Rybachiy source allows for testing narrower search grids in the flight profile. This accelerates acoustic and electromagnetic signature matching. The result is tracking with lower false positives and a more robust picture. This picture increases decision speed and confidence in regional crises. A small keel fracture that appears insignificant on paper can sharpen data around the Korean peninsula. Sharper data increases the reliability of the Allied picture. For Australia, this could create new flexibility in planning ASW patrols along its northern lines. While RAAF P aircraft continue long-range search and tracking missions, force modernization continues. Practice working together in multinational exercises such as Rybachiy can quickly absorb unexpected scene changes. The fluctuations caused by Russia's rhythm allow for testing alternative search boxes in the central and southern Pacific. This feeds into the data requirements for future submarine capabilities under AUKUS. Flight software, buoy deployment, and tactical data link optimization are updated with real-world data. Reduced tracking costs and increased capture probability enhance corridor security. This is valuable for keeping sea lanes open in the Indo-Pacific, even during times of crisis. The strategic result is a better picture without the need for more expensive platforms. This shifts the balance of regional deterrence and perception in Australia's favour. 4 allies collecting data simultaneously can quickly amplify a single breach in the common picture. The common picture captures changes in patrol departure times, time spent in front of ports, and training sorties. When algorithms flag deviations from past trends, search boxes narrow. Narrower boxes enable more efficient use of buoy stock. This efficiency translates into fuel and flight hour savings. Increased efficiency raises the probability of simultaneous detection. As the detection curve rises, the chance of surprise for the tracked party decreases. As the chance of surprises decreases, the deterrent language becomes simpler but more powerful. This cycle operates without requiring expensive hardware upgrades. The narrowing at Rybachiy is enough of a spark to start this cycle. On the other hand, the damage to Russia's nuclear base in Kamchatka paints a different picture for China. This is because Moscow's rhetoric of increased maritime cooperation is now facing a stark stress test. Beijing prefers to present joint patrols and exercises around the Sea of Japan as a political message. However, when the rhythm of its partners' port visits is disrupted, the credibility of this message is called into question. Operationally, the Chinese Navy pursues its own agenda, but the image of joint deterrence is weakened. The weakening image may force Beijing to tone down its rhetoric toward Japan and the US. Even the prominence of anti-submarine missions in the exercises does not change the question. Is the partner ready? What Beijing needs is a clear sign of recovery. If the signal is delayed, the psychological impact on the target audience of the joint patrols will diminish. This will complicate Beijing's narrative for its domestic audience. The result will be quieter communication in the short term. As long as the Russia-China joint exercises continue, the issue of the rhythm gap will remain on the table. Even if China emphasizes cooperation, the weak link on the ground tells a different story. As the possibility of delays in patrols in the Okhotsk basin is discussed, joint patrols lose their official status. This loss of status allows Japan to write its defense reports with a more relaxed risk assessment. The ideal scenario for Beijing is for repairs to be completed quickly and for Russian press releases to signal a return to normal. Otherwise, China will lower the political tone by reducing the joint patrol framework to a routine training level. This lower tone will be interpreted as a step back in rhetoric by the US-Japan public. Even if this is not the case, perceptions will shift in this direction. When perceptions shift, psychological superiority quietly changes hands. This superiority will remain until the data on the ground changes. From North Korea's perspective, the balance also depends on the credibility of its network of supporters. Although Pyongyang's rhetoric may increase periodically, the extent of surveillance networks in the region is well known. With the entry of ROKN's P-8A into service, the acoustic picture in the East Sea has become clearer. Possible delays in the Russian rhythm allow for closer monitoring of North Korea's submarine activities. This monitoring produces tactical lessons that can be used in times of crisis. It is in Pyongyang's interest for Moscow to recover quickly, because as the common front narrative weakens, so does its own message. Even if harsh words are used in rhetoric, their impact is diminished when not backed up by data on the ground. As the official narrative of allies in the region becomes more unified, the likelihood of unilateral surprises decreases. Fewer surprises also reduce the value of propaganda. Therefore, Pyongyang's silent expectation is for repairs to be accelerated. Let us now return to the function of Russia's nuclear base in Kamchatka and explain what has been affected in technical terms. Rybachiy and Vylyuchinsk together form a complex, with the former handling docking and light maintenance, and the latter serving as the backbone for missile and warhead operations. The strategic submarines of the Pacific Fleet operate around this pair. Vylyuchinsk, where the 16th Fleet is stationed, is a port located near the Okhotsk entrance, following a bastion logic. Buoy-class ships have been transferred to this base in recent years. Additionally, the presence of an older platform like the Delta III-derived K-44 Ryazan is also recorded. Port berthing delays cause indirect rather than direct delays to missile processing lines. Indirect delays extend preparation times and necessitate prioritization. This necessity rewrites the schedule for training and pre-patrol checks. The new schedule can amplify small delays in the overall picture. The nature of the damage is related to the displacement of the detached floating module and the low-capacity operation of the remaining modules. This situation requires a heavy-lift ship, a diving team, and favorable sea conditions. During the aftershock period, heavy equipment movements must increase safety margins. During repairs, the number of berthing and departure operations is reduced and waiting times are extended. This raises the risk of a short-term decline in the percentage of available vessels. A decline in the percentage does not in itself mean that patrols will be cancelled, but it does reduce flexibility. When flexibility decreases, competitors' prediction algorithms work more reliably. Increased prediction reliability means wider tracking windows. Wider windows allow the same detection probability to be achieved with fewer buoys. This chain continues naturally until the port repairs are completed. The Okhotsk bastion logic focuses on how the patrol is continuous rather than where it is. This approach, inherited from the Soviet era, aims to keep SSBNs under multi-layered defense in sheltered waters. While there are controversial aspects to the bastion idea, it is a fact that the Okhotsk-Barents pair is well established in the literature. Protection begins in port, continues at sea, and the departure-return rhythm is the focus of this chain. A break at Rybachiy creates friction in the first link of the chain. Friction lengthens the pre-patrol preparation time. As preparation lengthens, the entry-exit trail lengthens. As the trail lengthens, the margin of error in machine learning models decreases. Therefore, even a small port narrowing is a pragmatic objection to the bastion thesis. The strength of the objection is inversely proportional to the speed of repair. When discussing the trajectory of Russia's nuclear power, let's keep clear the difference between inventory and rhythm. Inventory and command and control systems are in place. It is not the files that are missing, but the quality of the flow. When the flow quality deteriorates, the credibility of threats weakens. The weakening is not permanent, but recovery requires visible signs. Visible signs are repairs and normalized movement patterns. When these patterns return, the nuclear card on the table approaches its old tone. If it does not return, the question of readiness is asked loudly by partners and rivals. This question is effective at the political level, not the technical level. Small delays take on greater significance at the political table. The key variable is the safe completion of repairs. So, can the base be repaired quickly? The size of the earthquake tsunami package has been clarified by satellite products and regional warnings. Warnings spread across the Pacific, with wave heights reaching significant values locally. Images recorded the rupture at Rybachiy as one of the first technical traces of the event. At the same time, reports of volcanic activity in the region attracted attention. All of this necessitated the application of marine engineering and occupational health rules based on the window principle. When the window is not present, heavy lifting is postponed, and as it is postponed, the mooring capacity remains low. Low capacity extends the queue, and as the queue lengthens, data collectors capture more signals. When signals increase, pattern analysis becomes more powerful. The solution to this vicious cycle is fast and safe repair as soon as the air-sea window is caught. When that window is caught, the story ends. If it is not caught, it continues. The West is learning many lessons from this window. For the US, Japan, South Korea, and Australia, this process is also a learning laboratory. Real-world data is unique in measuring the real-world counterpart of scenarios discussed on the drawing board. Profiles extending to torpedo launches in multinational packages, such as RIMPAC, convert this data into tactics. Even if the hardware remains unchanged, tactical software, buoy descriptions, and route plans are updated. This update moves the starting line forward in the next crisis. When the starting line moves forward, response times shorten. When response times shorten, deterrence speaks less and signals more. Signals increase the margin of caution in rival planning. As caution increases, the threshold for escalation rises. Thus, minor damage can silently affect a major balance. The challenge that China and North Korea will face in the field of communication is the emergence of gaps in their shared deterrence narrative. If Russia recovers quickly, this gap will close. If recovery is delayed, the gap will widen. When the gap widens, Beijing and Pyongyang's messages turn more toward their domestic audiences. Among external target audiences, the interpretation that there are words but little data gains strength. In such situations, joint exercises appear to be the solution. However, if the purpose of the exercises is to demonstrate credibility, the port rhythm must flow smoothly. If the disruption in the rhythm continues, the appearance of the exercises alone will not be enough to change perceptions. This will give the Western Bloc communication superiority. The source of this superiority is the sharp data provided by sensor and patrol networks in the field. Data speaks, sentences become shorter, and the message becomes clearer. In the technical picture around the base, the transfer of the buoy A and Yasen M classes to the Pacific is a long-term trend. New platforms place a burden on capacity in terms of port maintenance and personnel planning. If capacity planning is strong, external shocks are easily absorbed. If it is weak, bottlenecks grow. Kamchatka's geographical isolation creates costs in terms of heavy lifting and material procurement. This cost item may draw on training and exercise funds. As funds are drawn, medium-term plans are reviewed. If plan revisions are delayed, temporary solutions may become permanent weaknesses. Therefore, spare modules and alternative mooring arrangements should be tested with actual inventory. Signaling normalization without testing can quickly become meaningless in the field. The only validation in the field is the return to rhythm itself. On the other hand, the use of the nuclear option is as much an operational issue as it is a rhetorical one. The operational issue requires the port C transition to be carried out without delay as a precondition. When there is a delay, the immediate response rhetoric becomes stale. This staleness is temporary, but its political value increases as it prolongs. The US and its allies use this period to update their monitoring doctrines. Updating means fewer surprises in the next crisis. Fewer surprises make it easier to control escalation. Controlling escalation reduces the risk of retaliation and miscalculation. Thus, a small technical file can affect security policy in a broad context. The clear way out is quick and safe repair. The dataset provided by public sources is sufficient to understand the scale of the incident without exaggeration. Photos show the breakaway of the floating module, agencies provide the scope of the warnings, and expert articles provide the bastion context. When these three data streams are superimposed, the result is local damage and regional impact. The solution to local damage is engineering, while the solution to regional impact is rhythm. When rhythm returns, the Allies' monitoring windows narrow. As the windows narrow, the political rhetoric calms down. Calmness is achieved not only by making statements, but also by changing the pattern on the ground. Even if paragraphs are extended without changing the pattern, the effect will remain limited. Therefore, the critical metrics are port waiting time and departure frequency. When both indicators return to normal, the file is closed. Let's tie up the last knot and summarize what remains for whom. For the US and its allies, the gain is sharper surveillance and cheaper detection windows. For Japan, the gain is a more robust common picture with the P1 and Aegis network. For South Korea, the gain is an accelerated learning cycle with its young P8A fleet. For Australia, the gain is data flow from the field to the RAAF P8A and AUKUS vision. For China, the risk is the credibility gap seen in the joint deterrence narrative. For North Korea, the risk is growing questions about the reassuring rhythm of its network of supporters. For Russia, the way out is to restore the rhythm as soon as the window of opportunity for repair opens. If the rhythm returns, this analysis will become a footnote. If the rhythm is delayed, this analysis will become the opening paragraph of the next crisis. Thank you for watching.